We are enhancing the Minesweeper project from the YByte Python curriculum available at www.ybyte.in. As you know, our code presently has four functions. Find neighbors, which is an enabling function that is used for all the other tasks. Then we have these two very important functions, the click on and the open up, which are related to what happens when the person clicks a cell. And then recursively, the minefield opens up. And then finally, we have this one function called check winner, where we determine if there's a winner. Now, apart from this, our code is, let's say, organized as part of the regular flow. But in fact, we can improve the organization by adding a few more functions. We'll add three functions specifically: create board, which will create all the, let's say, buttons with the right dimensions. So 9 cross 9, for example, to start with. And then we will have this function called place mines, which will go and place all the mines. So find all the locations where we have a mine, and a third function which will update the feed list, because these are pivotal lists to the function. Now, this will not change the way the game works, but this will organize the code better. And as we'll see later on when we build more enhancements, in fact, this enhanced code will help us a great deal. So that's why it's worth doing. It's quite straightforward actually, but we just have to worry about, or let's say we just have to take care of placing the variables and lists across functions. So for example, field and location have to be in the global scope. Let's see how we can do this. In fact, I have the enhanced code where I have already created these functions, because really this was just a matter of organizing. So let's just look at all these three functions. Like I said, create board, place mines, and update field. So for the create board function, really all I did was to take, so remember we had this list called buttons. This was going to be a list of lists. So I basically created this list as part of the code. Now I'm taking this inside a function. So I just created def create board, and all of this code, which is part of my, my project earlier, is now a part of this function. Now you notice really nothing special is going on in this. I create all those tick-enter buttons. I place them in the right row and column index like earlier, and I also update this list buttons with the buttons. So the buttons becomes a list of lists where every item is a tick-enter button. So we had already been doing all this, and let's now just have it as a function. Next, I have the place mines function. Now, place mines is an interesting function. Basically, remember I have 10 mines in my game. Of course, it can be changed. I just go and pick out the locations which are going to be mines. We were doing this earlier, but now this has been made a part of a function. The only thing to watch out here is that the locations itself has to be given a global scope. Reason is that this list locations will be used later on, even in the click on function. So, when I have a click on function and my user wins the game, if I find there's a winner, then I use these locations once again to sort of highlight all the, all the mines, right? So I need this list later on. In fact, we'll also need this list when we update the field. So locations will be needed, and hence I've made this, global. So that was my, let's say, place mines function. Now, as we'll see later on, there can be enhancements in this function, which will change the way the mines are placed. So that's for enhancements later. But this organizes the code. And finally, I have a third function, which, like I said earlier, it's the update field. Now, once again, this part of the code was all as it is in the function in the program. All I've done is that I've taken this inside a function, and I'm updating this field. Now, again, this will be, let's say, subject to enhancements later on when we build more ideas, right? So there are some ideas which will kind of change this, and that's why it helps to have this as a function. So you notice I have these three functions. Now, when I run this piece of code, I've called all those. When I run this piece of code, in fact, the game works exactly the same. So I know there's a mine here. I know there's a mine here. Let's try. So if there's a mine here, there's a mine here. Okay, so this should not be a mine, and so on, right? So let's just say I, deliberately go and end the game. I just played rashly and the game ends, but you notice everything works exactly the same. And this is not a surprise, because all that has happened is that some part of the code, which was previously not as functions, has been put in functions, and I'm now calling these functions. Like I discussed, we will enhance all of this as we build further, we'll see that these functions will be quite handy for us to build more enhancements. I hope this was interesting to you. Our way of learning programming at YByte is to first build an activity that is interesting, and then think how we can enhance it, how we can make it even better. And that's what we are doing right now. Look at our website, www.ybyte.in. You will find that we learn Python programming by building fun activities, and we can learn a great deal from them. Take care. Thank you so much. Bye bye.